At that point, I didn't know how big the tornado was. I didn't know how wide it was. I didn't know the path it was taking. I parked diagonally in the road and stopped the traffic. Probably one of the hardest things you'll ever do is sit there waiting and not knowing where possible death is coming from.
307 is coming over 440.
I could see the bridge at the next intersection, Hardy Street. The clouds got darker, then all of a sudden I couldn't see. It looked like the cloud had actually just dropped down in between me and the overpass. You could hear the wind blowing, and they say it sounds like a freight train, and it's a lot worse. There was one car that I couldn't get to in time, and I actually drove up not knowing if they were all safe. That was terrifying.
Okay, so storm chasers are reporting a tornado on the ground in northern Lamar County. Large wedge tornado being reported on the ground in northern.
We had already had confirmation from a storm chaser. He actually relayed that to the National Weather Service into the chat, and they quickly relayed it to us. All right, this is one of the worst case scenarios that we can possibly have. I've been here for about 10 years, and it's the first time we've really had what we would describe as a wedge tornado on track towards a major metropolitan area. My voice cracks when I say that. I knew the devastation of a wedge tornado. We watched it happen in Joplin. We watched it happen in Tuscaloosa. And here it's happening to my city, and it's tough.
It is huge. It is a big tornado.
We were probably 5 miles outside of town. Still could not really get any visuals on the tornado. As soon as we crossed the Hattiesburg city limit is when we saw the tornado coming in, and our hearts stopped because we could see one end of it and we couldn't see the other.
All right, open my sunroof. Stop right here. Stop right here. Right here.
We were still on the line with National Weather Service and 911 that they would get the sirens turned on.
There are no sirens going off. Yeah, we're sitting right here. There's no sirens going off.
It may be larger. It may be larger. We got out the car, kind of started yelling for people that were around. Oh, it's bad. It's coming over. It's coming to 98. We got to get out of the way. You can tell the cars that are driving next to us have no idea what's going on. First base. Highway. What? King and Old Highway. King and Old Highway. Large multi-vortex tornado, quarter-mile wide.
First thing I thought, there's going to be a lot of injuries, and this isn't good.
Stop right here.
So we need to get out there and just start helping people as quick as we can.
Large tornado on the ground. Going into Hattiesburg. All right, you're going to go forward. Past the ambulance. Ma'am, I need to go.
I started getting text messages and calls from my sister, and she was like, I don't know what you need to do. She was like, I don't know if you need to keep going or turn around. So I got off the phone with her, and I called my coworker, Vanessa Pacheco, at work, and I just told her, I need to speak to the weather chief. I need to speak to Nick. She told me that Nick couldn't speak to me right now, but she would try to get the message to him. So I kept driving. Luckily, my nieces were not awake. And I just remember thinking, thank God they were asleep, because I started to panic. I started to cry. It was so incredibly dark. And it was just this eerie quiet that I've never heard before.
Throughout the course of my career as a photographer, I've probably covered 7 or 8 different tornadoes. But as far as actually being close to one or it actually hitting that close to home, this was the first. I was working at the Hattiesburg American. I was a staff photographer, so it took off to head into Hattiesburg. In the distance, I was able to see the actual storm running parallel. When it crossed Highway 589, I knew that it was headed for my parents' and my grandparents' neighborhood. I was exceptionally worried about them. I never strayed away from focusing to try to get into Hattiesburg, but at the time I was still continuing to touch base with them on the phone just to see how they were.
I'll talk to you. Okay. Texas tornado.
We pulled out of the parking lot, and I saw this giant destructive finger that was tearing things apart.
Whoa!
I was just really excited at first, you know, that I was looking at this tornado. There was a nice gentleman that he was in a white truck, and he kind of ran defense for us as we pulled out in the intersection because some people realized that there was a tornado and other people didn't. We were able to pull left, and I realized it was barreling down on us and it was coming our way.
Our oldest is Rebecca. We had dropped off Becca at church.
I was more worried about my parents than I really was of my daughter. I know that sounds awful, but seeing the way the storm was heading, I knew that it wasn't going to go that way.
Paul called his parents, and the phone lines were down at their house. We went to try to go to Paul's parents' house.
The way that the storm was coming, it looked like it was going to head straight on top of their house.
Keep going straight. Keep going straight.
439 Hattiesburg, I got one vehicle off the road here at 59, pulling up the party. Somebody else had stopped. There's a man, his wife, and 3 kids in a SUV, and they'd been picked up, flipped about 3 times in the air, and landed in a ditch. A lot of things going through my mind at the time. I didn't know if anybody was killed or seriously injured.
That's how bad it is. If I need to start that one out down there, I can. I've got something close to go.